Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah. In this Design Space tutorial video, I'm covering probably one of my most requested topics, and that is how to use your Cricut machine or your home printer to write on the inside of your greetings cards. If you're like me and don't really like your own handwriting, then adding a printed message inside a card or one that the Cricut draws with the pens is a lovely way to add your message in a beautiful font that looks perfect every time. Let's find out how to do it. First, we're going to create a card insert to stick inside an existing card. So I'm going to do this one as a piece of white cardstock with my message on, and then I'll put a bit of coloured card behind it to make a border, and then glue this inside of a card I've already made. This is a lovely way to add greetings after you've made the card. For example, if you like to make a load of cards at once, but you're not quite sure yet who you're going to give them to or when, then this is a great way to add beautiful messages to the inside whenever you want to, so you can just add them in once the card has already been made. I'm going to be doing a 5x7" card, and mine is a landscape card. So what I'm going to do first is make a little template so that I know how big to make my message. So let's go into shapes and then choose a square. And I'm going to make this the full size of my card, which is 7 inches wide and 5 inches tall. Let's zoom in a bit to make it easier to see. You can turn this into a guide so that you just see the edge by going into the operations drop down and changing it to guide. Then when you click away, you only get that bit around the edge, and it will be easier to see if I turn off the grid lines by clicking this little bit here. You can turn them back on again by just clicking it through until you see them again. If you want to, you could make this a colour instead, and this can be helpful if your card is a particular colour. Let's say, for instance, if I change this back to a basic cut, let's say my card is light blue, then it's helpful to make it light blue in Design Space because then you can match the colours later on. As we're going to be working with pens, make sure you have the correct Cricut machine selected before you start the design, because the type of pens you can use does vary based on whether you're using the Joy or the larger machines. Alright, let's start making our inserts. So I'm going to start by doing my border. So let's find another rectangle, or I could just duplicate the existing one. That's probably quicker. I normally do my borders in a darker colour of what the actual card is, so let's go for a dark blue. To make this smaller, I don't recommend dragging the corners like this, because this doesn't change it in proportion all the time. Although this one is doing a pretty good job. But you can see the gap on the top and the bottom is smaller than the gap on the side, so it just doesn't quite line up as well as you might hope. So instead, what I do, let's just put it back to the right size, is manually change the size using the width and the height box and take the same number off of each side. So let's untick the padlock box so it's open. And I'm going to try 6 inches wide, which means the height would be 4 inches. So I'm taking 1 inch off of both sides, and that way my gap around the edge is exactly the same. Duplicate this one, and now because I'm doing the writing on this one, I want this one to be white. If you choose a dark colour, it can be really difficult to get the pens to show up, but if you did want to write on something really dark, you can try using either the metallic markers, they show up quite well on dark cardstock, or the Cricut opaque pens, again they show up well on dark cardstock. But for this one, I'm just going to use the regular fine point Cricut pens, so I want a white. I want my border to be quite thin, so I'm only going to take 1/4 inch off of each side of this one. There we go. And then let's get everything looking beautiful. So select all, align, and then center. And now everything's perfectly in the middle of itself. Start adding the writing. So I'm going to go into text, and let's pretend I'm doing this card for my mum. I'm just doing this as an example. So, to mum. We need to change this to a drawing font. go into the fonts drop down, and in the filter icon, choose writing. And then you can choose any of the fonts that come up. Most of them are Cricut Access only fonts, so you might need the monthly subscription to be able to use them. Let's go for a perfect day. That looks quite pretty. Oh, it's been a bit slow. That should apply the font. Not sure why it's being quite this slow. Maybe I'm having a little internet blip. There we go. It was just being really, really slow. Okay, I kind of want that as a capital. I don't like that font, actually. Let's try something else. This one is called Alexis Mattox Emma Ray. Let's try that one. I like that one. I'm not sure why I've got such big gaps in between my letters, though. You're not supposed to do that anymore. I'm also going to tick my kerned box in here, and that should then just give me writing fonts where the letters are touching properly. Let's go for that one. Will be all in capitals. If I want more of a handwriting font, let's see, BFC. Oh, I like that one. BFC Cornbread Snacks. That's an amazing name. Okay, I like that one. Let's go for this one. If your font is still showing as sort of bubble letters where it's drawing around the edge of the letters rather than looking like handwriting, check that your style in here is set to writing and not regular. So I'll put that one in there. And then for the greeting, you could either type something out, or we can try and find a greeting under this phrases section here, which we can use with our pens. Under operation type, choose draw only. And then I am going for this one as a birthday card. So then we can have a little look. And then this just gives you some sort of prettier, different designs. I love that with the flowers. That would look so nice in the inside of a portrait card, but I don't think it'll work very well on my landscape card. Let's see what's in here. A little birthday love. That's quite cute. I will select that one as a possibility. Oh, I like that one too. So there are loads of fun designs in here for if you don't want to just type things out. This one's quite nice too, with loving thoughts on your birthday. I'm going to try these, see which one I like best. That's a bit of a funny shape for a landscape card. I'll go for this one. I'm not one for writing big long poems or anything like that in cards. I normally just go to whoever it is, happy birthday, love Sarah. But of course you can add as much or as little as you want in here. Make that smaller. You can change the pen colours in the drop down in here, and also the pen type. I think I'm going to stick with just the regular pens, and let's make these raspberry, and let's go for a blue in that one. I want to line these all up so they're perfectly in the middle. I'm going to select them all. I'm pressing Shift on my keyboard to click multiple ones at the same time, and then go align and center horizontally. In fact, I also want to select the white behind it so that they're in the middle. And now that I'm happy with how that's looking, that's perfect. That's exactly what I want to draw. With all these layers still selected, so all my text and just the white layer underneath it, press attach. Attach is what tells the Cricut that we actually want it to do that drawing on this particular bit of white. When you click make it, you should see this. So if we click on the white, you see it's all part of that. I'm just going to click cancel because we don't need to cut the very big rectangle. That was just giving us the guide to know how big to make it. So this is what I would need to cut out. And if you are not sure how to use pens in your Cricut machine, I have a separate video on how to do that. So I'll drop the link to that one in the description of this video for if you'd like to see that. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and get this all drawn. One other thing you can do if you don't have any pens to go in your Cricut machine is you can turn this into a print then cut instead. So rather than the Cricut doing all the drawing with the pens, you would print it on your home printer. I will also do this so that you can see the difference. So if I group this and duplicate it to make a copy, on this one, I'm going to have the whole thing selected, and then down the bottom of the layers panel, press flatten. And you see that looks a little bit different now. And when we look in the layers panel, it's now just one layer. This will be sent to my home printer, and then I'll put it into my Cricut to cut around the edge. I'll use glossy photo paper for this just to add an extra little bit of shine. Finally, I think I will also show you how it looks if you do it on dark cardstock. So if I do one that's on a black and then use a mixture of opaque markers, where are they? Not in there. They might be gel pens. There we go. So I'll use the white one, I think, for my text. White. And then the drawing, let's do that in a marker pen. So have a little look in here. Can't remember exactly what ones I've got, and I don't have them in front of me right now. I'll just choose gold for now, and then I can always change that based on when I actually work out what I've got. I think it's actually these metallic ones. Let's go for violet, that's quite nice. Alright, so this is my 3 different versions. I've got my drawn image on the white, my printable version, and then the one on the dark colour too. I'll give all of this a try and then show you how they all look and the differences between each one. Here's the card that I'm going to be putting my insert into, so it's this nice bright blue colour. And then I've got my 3 different inserts. The first one is this one, which is the one the Cricut pens drew. So you see that's looking nice. And I used just the regular Cricut pens, the fine point pens. And I used wine colour and blueberry colour to do that one. And then I tried it on the black card, and I used the Cricut opaque gel pens to do the white. So you see that stands out nice. And then the purple is a metallic marker. I got these, I think, in a Cricut mystery box a while back. But they're called, see if that's going to focus, a metallic marker. And they're quite thick. So it didn't work out brilliantly on this particular design because it was just a bit too thick to get all the details in that happy birthday. So I gave it another go with the colours switched around. So this time the marker did the writing on the top and bottom, and the opaque pen did the middle bit, and that ended up looking much nicer. So that's my second one. And then finally, here is the one that printed on my computer. So it's all shiny because I did it on glossy photo paper, and it's got the border already part of it. So there we go. It's probably closest to compare these two. So with the pens, you can kind of see where the pen pushes against the paper. To start with, you get a little dot, and it looks much more hand done, whereas the printed version is obviously just completely perfect. So it depends just what kind of effect you're going for. I'm going to use this one, and then I changed my background to actually match my teddy bear. So I've got a little brown in there. And then all I need to do is glue this inside, and I've got a beautiful insert. So I'm not going to do that because I'm sure you know I will do it. So grab your favourite craft glue and get sticking. Or you could use double-sided tape. It's completely up to you. You don't have to do this border either. If you want to just stick the white straight inside your card, you can absolutely do that. I just like that this gives a little bit of extra kind of detail, and also means you can match it to the colours of the card a little better. I just think with a border it finishes it off a little bit neater. So there's that one. And now when my card is opened, it's got that beautiful message inside. Next, let's take a look at how to do inserts for cards when you're using a shaped edge card, so one that's not a traditional square or rectangular shape. This is one of the side edge cards that I made as last year's Christmas craft countdown, but I think it could also work well for other events such as weddings, which is what I'm going to use it for in this example. If you want the SVG to make this card, I'll drop the link to it in my shop in the description of this video. So this card's a bit different because the edge of the card is cut to have the shape of the bells, and there would be enough room to just do a rectangular insert if you wanted to, but I like to actually kind of match the outline when I'm doing it, and because these side edge cards give you a lot of space, you can also duplicate the pictures on the inside too. Your shaped card might be more traditionally shaped, like maybe around the edge of an animal or something like that, in which case you wouldn't have any images to duplicate on the inside, but you can still use exactly the same steps as I'm about to show to do an insert that matches the size of what you've got in the middle. First, we need to cut this base card in half. So let's ungroup it to separate out all the layers, and I am going to just hide all those bells. I've already made this card, so once again I'm just adding the insert a lot later, but of course you could make the card at the same time too. I will cut the bells again, as I said, to go on the inside. Let's chop it in half. We'll go into shapes and choose a square, and then I want to make this half of the width of the square and a little bit taller. So that is an awkward size. I'm going to need a calculator. Alright, so I'm going to untick my padlock box on this square. Half of that is 4.982, and then let's go just 7.5, so it's a little bit taller. And then I want to select both of these layers and go align center vertically, and then align right. So this is perfectly positioned this so that it's touching the side of my card. If I drag it to the top, you can see exactly what that's doing, and then it's overlapping a little bit on the top and bottom. With those two layers still selected, press slice down at the bottom of the layers panel, and that will cut my rectangle out of the card. I don't need the grey bits anymore, so delete them. And then here is my card. Now, my insert will be going on the back of this piece if you imagine it folded as the card. However, I'm going to use this bit as my guide because when I open the card, this is still the shape that it's going to be. So let's delete that one. And then this will be my base, so I'm going to use this one as my template or my guide. Duplicate it, and then let's make this a gold colour. And you can either drag it smaller, but you have the same problem as the last time where it doesn't quite line up and it's not going to fit very nicely. So I don't recommend doing it that way. Instead, you can make a little inside piece that's a bit smaller by going into offset and then drag it down so it's a negative number. I only want it a little bit smaller. Press apply. So actually I didn't need to duplicate that one because this is going to be my gold piece. There we go. Then that will stick in there. And then I need to do the one that I'll actually write on. So I'll go into offset again and it should remember the same setting. There we go. And then that one will be my white. And I've just made those insert pieces now to fit the curves of my card. And I just think it shows that you've put a little bit of extra effort in, which is quite nice. If I was to add my bells now, obviously they've all moved about. They're not quite going to work because it's going to touch all the way to the edge. But I think that's probably okay. I can just stick them on top. And each one's got 2 pieces anyway. So I can line it up. I will make sure I glue these though rather than adding the foam squares. Because if it was the foam, it'll be too thick to actually close the card. I think that'll still look nice though, because it's going to have the little joining bits in there. So you'll see the gold of the insert pieces in that shape. So it's up to you. I mean, you could leave them off because it is kind of going to cover up all that work we've just done. Or you can leave them on, completely up to you. And then I could just add my text to this in exactly the same way that I did last time. We just need to center it a little bit differently. So I'm going to go into phrases again. Here it is. And this time, let's look for a wedding phrase. I want one nice and tall. That's kind of nice if I fake some names to go in here. And, oh, I haven't changed it to draw only. Oh, there's loads of pretty pictures in here. Eat, drink and be married. I might, my card's quite traditional, so I think I probably need quite a traditional message to go with it. There's always the hardest bit. Oh, there's not actually a lot of wedding to choose from. Maybe a happy ever after. All these are being slow to load. There we go. I'm going to go for this one. It's fine that it overlaps my bells a little bit because this will be on the white and then I can stick the bells on top. It's only going to overlap the drawing of the swirl, so that's okay. Now to line this one up, I'd select this one and my white, and I don't want to go align center anymore like I did on the rectangular one because this is a funny shape on the side. So instead, to put this exactly in the middle, I will go center vertically, and then it puts it so there's the same gap on the top and the bottom, but it keeps it over this left hand side, which is what I want. Let's attach those. And again, I'm doing this card just to have in my stash for if I need it in the future. So I'm not going to add any names or anything on it at the moment. I'll handwrite them on at a later time. But this would be all ready for me now to cut out. I just need to remember to turn the other bells back on. I know you can't see them, but that's okay. I know they're there. And then hide the blue shape because that's my actual card. So I'll go ahead and do this one and we'll see how it turns out. Here's my card bits all ready to go in. My side edge card is here, so that's already made. And then I've got the part with the message on. I'm not sure if you can see, but I did this in a gold Cricut gel pen, so it's got a lovely sparkle on it. And that's from this set, this gold set, and it's the one right on there. You can have a look. It says it's a gel tip pen in glitter gold. So just that one on the end. And this goes together very similarly. So I'm going to stick this one onto my yellow first. You could do it the other way around and stick the yellow inside the card first. That's what I did on the previous card. There's no right or wrong. That goes in the middle, so you've got a nice border of the colour all the way around the edge. And then glue this in the card. Dangly bit on my jumper that is threatening to go in this glue. Gonna need to snip that off. Okay. Again, this one will line up so it's got a little bit of blue showing around all the edges, and that just means it's not going to be pressed up against the score line, so the card is going to open and close perfectly. And you could leave it like that, and it just adds so much having that insert on it. But I did make all the little bells, so I'm going to glue those in. Not sure which way round they go, so I'm going to line them up first. No. Oh, have I gone this wrong? Because they all look right. Oh, do you know what? I've glued that the wrong way round, haven't I? Oops. I messed up there. I'm impressed I managed to do that because I lined them all up before I stuck them. I bet that's stuck too much now because I did it a while ago. Oh, I can just about peel it off. Please don't break. I'll bet I'll have all the glue on it. Yeah, it doesn't look good, does it? Okay, well that wasn't very smart of me. So I think what I'll do instead is just put one over there on the top. And that looks purposeful, right? It looks like an intentional design decision. Right, just that one. I actually kind of like that better because it means we can see all of this edge. So then we got front and inside. Beautiful. For the third and final part of this video, let's see how you can actually write on the card itself rather than writing on a separate bit of card that you then stick inside. This is only really possible to do on the Cricut if you're using one of the card mats, either for the Cricut Joy or the 4x4 card mats that come for the bigger machines. I don't have one of those, so I'm going to be using my Cricut Joy card mat. And the reason that you can do that with these mats is the mats come with a slot in them so that you can slide half of the card away so that it will line up perfectly to write on the inside. Of course, you could try this on a regular Cricut mat, and if you want to, that's absolutely fine. I tried it a couple of times and I couldn't get it to line up perfectly straight, and I really don't want kind of wonky text inside my cards, which is why I do it on a separate piece to go inside a card I'd make just with my regular machine. But for card mats, you can write on the actual card itself, and that's what I'm going to do here. This is one of the Cricut Joy designs from my website. It's a free design. I'll drop the link to it in the description. And this is for the medium-sized Cricut Joy insert cards. So it's 4 inches wide and 5.25 inches tall. I don't need to cut the grey rectangle because I'm using pre-made Cricut Joy blanks, so they come with that blank in there, so I can delete that one. So all I need is this one. To write the message, it's very similar to what we did on the first part of this video, so I've already got that sorted. First, create a base template. Now this time, the base rectangle has to be the same size as the insert of the card you're making. So I can click this one and see it's 4 inches wide and 5.25 inches tall. That's the size that I want to make my base rectangle. So whether you're using the small, medium or large sizes of the Cricut Joy cards, or if you're using any of the other ones that can go on the Cricut Maker card mats or the Explore card mat, because they come in different sizes and they're square ones. And I don't know, I haven't tried them, but there are other ones in there. Just make sure that you do this to the size of the card you're using, otherwise it's not going to line up properly. I've made 3 text layers. And this font is a Cricut Access font. It's called DJ Flirt. It's really cute. It has little hearts instead of O's and hearts on some of the other letters. I really like it. For this one, I've changed my machine to the Cricut Joy because it has different pens in it than the larger machines. So I just need to make sure when I'm choosing the colours that it knows I'll be using the Joy. I haven't lined this up yet, so we'll do that. Just go align, center horizontally. And now for this one, we don't actually want to cut this base piece. I'll hide it and then attach any text layers you've got in here. Press attach. And now I've got these 2 bits. This is going to make a landscape card. Obviously, it wouldn't actually be this straight up, which is why I did this in landscape. Now, when I click make it is going to do this. I want to change the material load type to on card mat and then choose the size of the card you're making. And when you select the size, Design Space should perfectly center this onto the card. You see, I've got a nice even border around the edges. This is the one I'm making, and then this one underneath is also, going to be on the card mat. And make sure you've got that right size. I'm not going to cut it from a black card. It's actually going to be a creamy colour, but we'll go with it. What I would recommend doing first, I was going to say do the cutting first, because if it messes up and rips, you don't want to have gone to the effort of already doing the writing. But at the same time, you've also got, if you go to all the effort of doing a beautiful cut and then your pen smudges or something like that, then it's kind of half of one, six of one, half a dozen of the other. That's the saying, isn't it? I started saying that and then realised I couldn't remember what I was about to say. Oh dear, I think I need to take a break. I think a cup of tea is calling me once I finish this recording. Anyway, so here it is. This is now looking how it would be in Design Space. I am going to do the cutting first at the front of my card. So what I'll do is I'll go and get that cut out, and then I'll show you how you need to load the card mat to do the writing on the inside, because it's a little bit different to how you'd load it just to do the regular cutting. Here's my main card all cut out just like you would for any Cricut Joy insert card. I've got the insert piece here which will be threaded through the corners to show the colour through the gap. But next I need to feed this back into my Cricut Joy to write on the inside. So let's peel the sticky off of my card mat. And this time you want to turn the card over so you're folding it back on itself like this, and then slide it into your card mat, and then this is where it's going to write. You can see on the screen in Design Space the direction it's going to write, so just make sure that it's going to be the right way up when you feed this into your mat. So just slide that in there all the way to the edge and push it down. And then this will go into my Cricut Joy machine just like normal, only this time it's going to do all of my writing. Here it is with all the writing done. And then I can peel this off and then close it the right way up. And there we go, there's the writing inside. Now all I need to do is thread the insert piece into the corners. And these are great because you don't need any glue. It just threads right in there. So now I've got the front of my card with that lovely gold behind it. And when you open it, custom message just as if you wrote it yourself. Perfect. I hope you enjoyed this Design Space tutorial on how to add text to the inside of your handmade greetings cards. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Design Space and Cricut tutorials. Thank you for watching. Bye!